Hello everybody and welcome back. We're looking at question number 3, so we're over the halfway point. Question 3 on the 2004 Galois paper. So this is the written grade 10 contest. What does question 3 have to say? In the Sun game, 2 players take turns placing discs numbered 1 to 9 in the circles on the board. Assume they mean this board over here. Each number may be used once. The object of the game is to be the first to place a disc so that the sum of the 3 numbers along a line through the center circle is 15. Okay. Question A. By the way, sum of 15 numbers 1 to 9, I'm immediately starting to think magic squares, although this clearly isn't a magic square. Anyway. 3A. If Avril places a 5 in the center circle, and then Bob places a 3, although we're not told where, I guess it doesn't matter where, by symmetry, it's anywhere. Explain how Avril can win on her next turn. Okay. Well, if Avril's going to win, she has to make 15, and only 2 numbers have been placed, the 5 and the 3. So is there a way to get 15 if the other 2 numbers are 5 and 3? So 5 plus 3 is 8. 15 minus 8, she needs to place a 7. That's fine, it hasn't been used. And it's definitely in between 1 and 9. So she needs to place a 7 so that 3, 5, and 7 line a line. Okay, well we just need to explain some of this. So I might say something like, to win, Avril must place on her turn a 15 minus 5 minus 3, 7. Now, since the 5 is in the center, and this comes from her first turn, the 3 must have been placed in what I'm going to call them spokes, in a spoke. So to win, she places her 7 in the opposite spoke. So I might have 5, 3, and then I don't really care about the other ones. I feel like I don't have enough. Stick another one here. And then so the 3 is there, so we get 5, and then we get a 7. Okay, I would say that's enough reasoning. We've explained the number she needs and where to place it. That's her whole turn. And it doesn't matter where Bob places it. Maybe we should explain that, but I don't think it's necessary. And Bob's placed as 3. Doesn't really matter where. She just places it in the opposite one, regardless of where he put it. Okay? So that's a part. It's probably worth maybe 2 marks. Maybe. These things are marked out of 10, so I would guess probably 2, 3, 5 or something like that. I don't know. Maybe it's 3, 3, 4. That's usually a common one, in which case maybe a little bit of extra explanation in A would do. Anyway, B part. If Avril starts by placing a 5, she's just going to do a 5 every single time. If the game is in the position as shown, great. My copy is messed. Anyway, looks like a 1, a 3, and I have no idea. Okay, so if Avril starts placing a 5 in the center circle, show that whatever Bob does on his first turn, Avril can always win on her next turn. So she's got a 5, and whatever Bob does, should be able to win. I'm just trying to think of ways I can do C without understanding what the heck's going on. I'll probably have to look it up on my phone, just a clearer image or something like that. Just because I cannot read that. I really can't. So I'm going to turn my phone on, and it'll be warmed up by the time I need to look up what the heck C says. Okay, getting back to the question here. B part, if Avril starts placing a 5 in the center circle, show that whatever Bob does on his first turn, Avril can always win on her next turn. Okay. So let's explore here. We know what happens if he places a 3. So Avril starts, she's got 5 here. So if Avril's going to win on her next turn, Bob places it somewhere, places some number somewhere. She should play opposite. That's the idea. So suppose Bob places an N. Or I'd go with X just because X is not a very common letter in English. Okay. So you must place it in one of the spokes. Okay. So he's going to place it in one of the spokes. If Avril's going to win, she sort of has to play opposite. So, for Avril to win on her next turn, she must play in the opposite spoke. This is true. And this is since we need 3 numbers in a line. And this will be the third number. So if she's going to win, she has to place it so it's in a line. Now the 5 is in the center, that's great. And so Bob places an X somewhere. Okay. So to win, she must make 15. So she needs to place, we need 15, 5 has been spoken for, and X has been spoken for. So she needs to place a 10 minus X. And what we need to do is sort of explain why this can always be done. Can we always choose a 10 minus X? Okay, and we'll just take a look at the numbers. So, if that number is available, then she's definitely going to win. She just places that and she's all set. Okay? So, let's take a look. Can she place that number? Five is chosen on the first round. So on Avril's first turn, the 5 is chosen. So now Bob has what to choose from. He can choose 1, 2, 3, 4. He can't choose 5. That one's already taken. 8 and 9. So Avril should play, and then we just take 10 minus each of these. So 10 minus 1 is 9. 10 minus 2 is 8. 7, 6, 4, 3, 2, 1. So you just got to place those respectively. So if Bob, for example, if he chose to place the 3, she places a 7. If Bob chooses to play a 9, Avril will play a 1, and she'll play it opposite. So we've detailed her strategy. We show it can work. I might sum up. So no matter what Bob chooses, Avril, not Errol, Avril. So no matter what Bob chooses, Avril can play opposite with 10 minus x. So notice that the only number that wouldn't have been, if Bob had somehow magically chosen 5, Avril would be wanting to play 10 minus 5, but that couldn't happen because 5 is already spoken for. Now Bob couldn't choose 5 because 5 was already chosen in the first place. So Avril can play opposite Bob, 10 minus x, and win. And that's what we were asked to do. We were asked to, explain why Avril, show that Avril can always win on her next turn. So we've detailed her strategy, what she needs to do, where she needs to play. She needs to play opposite Bob. We've explained that because there's only 3 numbers, and you can only win with 3 numbers in a line being 15. And we've explained not only the strategy behind the number. If Bob chooses x, we choose 10 minus x because that will make 15. But we also actually explicitly, if we go back and see, we explicitly wrote out each one. If Bob plays 1, she plays a 9. If Bob plays 2, she plays an 8, and so on. So we've actually explicitly written out what she needs to do. And you might want to just sort of write up a little more of the details. Explicitly give an example. I've just sort of colored in an example. The green 3 goes with the green 7, just like in part A. But you might want to say, this is Avril's strategy. If Bob plays a 3, she plays a 7 opposite. If Bob plays a 4, she plays a 6, and go through all of them. I don't think that's necessary. I think we've detailed everything just fine. Okay? So that does it for B part. We've explained her strategy just fine. And now C part. Now, I can't really read this. It looks like 1, 2, and 3. And I don't know if I downloaded a glitchy copy, but I've got my phone up. I'm going to just very briefly try and read through part of their solution to see, because obviously if I download the same file again, I'm not going to be able to read it better on my phone. It's tinier. But I'm just going to read. So part C, their solution starts with Bob can place any of the numbers 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, and 9. So 1, 2, and 3 are the ones spoken for. And I can tell from my picture that it is going to be 1 in the middle. And so 2 and 3 on opposite sides, that's all that we really care about. So phone going away. I'm not cheating here. I just wanted to be able to read that, and I just cannot read that. All right. So C part. So if the game is in the position as shown and Bob goes next, so 1 in the middle, then 2 and 3 are opposite one another, show that however Bob plays, Avril can win this game. All right, so this should be a bit more involved. And it's not however Bob plays, Avril can win the game next turn. So it might be a bit more of a back and forth strategy. If Bob does a 4, we'll do this to block him and take away this number from him and eventually win. Now, we need to place in a line totaling up to 15, right? So it's got to be 1 and then whatever Bob plays. Eventually Bob should play the 6, and then she can play the 8 opposite, that sort of thing. That's the idea. So with 1 in the middle, so we just draw this so I can remind myself what we've got so far. 1, it looks like the 2's up there and the 3's down here. But of course, it doesn't really matter because there's no other things filled in, so there really isn't any orientation to this puzzle. Or this sort of, not puzzle, but picture. Okay. So now, Bob can play, and now I sound like I'm just quoting the solution that I read out, but Bob can play. Bob has 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9 left to choose from. All right, so what could Bob do? Well, he can pick any of them, really. So I sort of have to, I'll say he chooses X. And then, there might be a very quick Avril response, in which case she can win. But maybe if he chooses 5, there's no way for her to win. So she has to play something to respond to that 5. Maybe 4 and 5 are just too small for her to force a win. And so then she'll play something to force a larger number out of Bob next time. We'll call that Y. So that's the idea that I'm going to build off of. Maybe I should start with ABC, because if we don't do it by X, Y, Z, there's only going to be 3 back and forth moves left, because there's only 6 numbers. So X, Y, Z's fine. But in the longer run, I probably would have wanted to start with A, B, C, D, just so I have more letters. Anyway. So, we'll suppose Bob places an X. Okay, so he's playing X. Maybe it's 5, maybe it's 9. Who knows? If Avril is to win next turn, and remember, we're not guaranteed that that's what's going to happen, but if Avril is going to win next turn, she would want to need to play opposite. The X, and she would need to play, 15 minus the X minus the 1 that's already in the middle. So this comes from Bob's play, and this comes from the middle. Because otherwise she's not forming a line. She's got to do 1, X, and something else. And I don't care about the rest of the puzzle. Okay? So she needs to do X, 1, and something else. So 15 minus X minus 1, or really 14 minus X. Okay, so can she do this? If Bob plays 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, Avril plays, well, she would want to play, so she would want to play a 10. That's not possible. For a 5, she would play a 9. For a 6, she would play an 8. For a 7, she would play nothing she can do there. She'd want to play a 7, but it's spoken for. It's already been played. Bob played the 7. Okay, and then no, this is not. These are discs, right? Discs, yeah, circular discs. Okay, yeah. If she plays an 8, if Bob plays an 8, she'll play a 6, and if Bob plays a 9, she'll play a 5. Okay. So if at any time, so we've shown if Bob plays If Bob plays a 5, 6, 8, or 9, she can win next turn. Okay, now suppose Bob doesn't do that. Maybe Bob plays a 4, knowing that Avril can't play a 10. What should she do? If we want to show that she can win, we need to detail her strategy. That's what a game theory question is. You have to detail the strategy, articulate it completely. Okay? So now we have to, if he plays a 5, 6, 8, or 9, we're fine. What happens if he plays a 4 or a 7? What should she do? Okay? So, However, if Bob plays a 4, what should she do? If Bob plays a 7, if she plays a 7, if he plays a 7, we can't play the 7 that we would want. Okay, we're still going to play opposite, is my strategy. I'm going to say she'll play a 7. I'm going to explain this in a moment. This is my strategy, and I think it'll work. If Bob plays a 7, she should play 4. Yeah, she's not going to win, but, and both of these should be opposite. Okay? She's not going to win on this play, but if she plays opposite, then Bob's got to start a brand new line. Okay? Bob can't play a 4 and then she plays a 5 somewhere and then he plays a 9, winning. So she wants to reduce his chance of that happening. So she should play opposite even if she can't win. But if he plays a 7, she should play a 4 because 7 and 4 were the ones that didn't give her a win. So then, nobody wins after Avril's play. He played a 4, she played a 7, nobody wins. Adds up to 12. We've got a line of 6, a line of 12, nobody's winning. But then what can Bob play next? He can't play a 4, he can't play a 7, he's got to play one of the 5, 6, 8, or 9 that are left. And Avril can win if he plays one of those. Okay? So now we just need to articulate that. Okay? So she won't win on this turn. But on Bob's next turn, he looks at a board like, so we got the 2, we've got the 1, we've got the 3, and we've got, say, 4 and 7, and then there's these 2 other ones. You must start a new line, and he can only choose from 5, 6, 8, or 9, which gives Avril the win next turn with 9, 8, 6, 5, respectively. Okay. So we've explained what's going on. We don't have to explain why we've come to the conclusion that 4 and 7 are the ones that need to be played opposite one another. If you want to, you can explain that. 4 and 7 are both the sort of non-winners. And she actually doesn't need to play the 7 opposite the 4. She really doesn't. I mean, I like it because it forces Bob to start a new line, and it ends it really quickly. But if she played a 4 or if he played a 4 and she played a 7 in a completely different line, that's fine. No one's going to get 15 when they play in those 2 lines, and eventually she can force Bob to start a brand new line with a 5, 6, 8, or 9. That's all. But go quickly. All we need to do is detail one strategy that is guaranteed to win. We've explained why it will win. There's nothing else to do here. Now, something you might want to do if you think that my verbal explanation is not clear enough, if you're someone who says, well, neatness and clarity counts, you might want to sort of start on a brand new page and say, something like, Bob plays, so if we have this, Bob plays 5, 6, 8 or 9. Actually, you might even want to do something like this. Bob plays a 5, Avril plays 9 opposite. Now, Bob plays 6. Avril plays an 8 opposite. And you can detail it this way, and this is a slightly clearer presentation, maybe use complete sentences, but you can do things like Bob plays 4, Avril plays 7 opposite, and then Bob plays 5, and then show her win. It's only going to take 4 steps. I think this is unnecessarily complicated. Just explain your strategy, but if you want to, once you've got it all done, once you've explained your reasoning, detailing it, maybe like boxing your strategy would be fine as well. Doesn't have to go with this length, doesn't have to go with the little arrows, you can have complete sentences, that sort of thing. But explain it, then detail it, and have the actual details of the plan separate. That's fine too. But you wouldn't get full marks just by saying Avril does this, then Bob does this, Avril does this, that sort of thing. Because if you're not explaining your reasoning, then how do we know you didn't copy off your neighbor? Okay, so you wouldn't get full marks. Explanation counts for these sorts of things. Explain why 7, and 4 have to go together a little bit, or explain why the 5 and the 9 pair up, because I know they add up to 14, that sort of thing. Okay? And, explain why it'll end after Avril's second move here, because, we force Bob to start a new line if he does 4 and 7, that sort of thing. Okay? But other than that, detail your strategy, explain it, and that's it. That's the key to every game theory question. Explain why your strategy will work after you've given your strategy. Okay. So we've got one more question left on the Galois, and that's question number 4. We're going to look at that in the next video. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you guys next time.